Hello everybody and welcome to another very interesting case file. Another one that probably one of the reasons why I'm presenting this, why Sophie isn't, because I'm probably going to be more geeked out by this in terms of my own knowledge with this one. It's one that absolutely fascinates me. And we're obviously joined by the wonderful Paranormal Inspectres as well, so thank you everybody for joining us, because I think this is probably one of the most exciting episodes that we're going to do for me, because I personally feel like there is so much information that gets lost in this. And we're obviously, if you haven't guessed by the title already, we're talking about the Enfield Poltergeist, which happens to be one of the, if not the biggest cases of supposed poltergeist activity, definitely in England, if not probably famously in the world. You could argue amongst yourselves on that one, but if you don't know the story, let's just give a bit of background. Enfield is North London, and the story is that a young girl named Janet was supposedly possessed by a resident poltergeist. And that's where we're going to sort of start the background of this. But today we're going to focus on something that doesn't normally get addressed by that, which is the preface to this. So there are plenty of documentaries out there. There's plenty of information out there, because there are still people, and we want to say this as well before we start. We mean no disrespect to the people who are actually still alive. We really don't mean that at all. And the things we're talking about, this is a case study. So we're just putting the evidence out there, and we're talking amongst ourselves, having an opinion. So for the people who are involved in this, who are still alive, please understand there is no disrespect whatsoever. And we really, really genuinely mean that. So where do we begin, everybody, on this story? Well, it can't be on the poltergeist itself.
No.
So let's just start. Where would you like to?
Well, first of all, I think we need to say that it is a local authority house.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that house is still being resided in today. So for whatever has happened in it or not happened in it, it is still being rented.
Mm-hmm.
And it is opposite a school.
Yeah.
And outside of the house there is a zebra crossing. And there is a lamppost directly outside. So that's basically the outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about the family that's in there.
Yeah. Let's just say as well, sorry to interrupt you,
yeah.
by all accounts, it is a very mundane house.
Yeah.
Let's just paint that picture as well. It is a very blink and you'll miss it house.
Yeah.
So nothing special. Not your typical haunted mansion vibes in the middle of nowhere. We're talking like Enfield, which is a very built-up residential area in the outskirts of North London. And, yeah, it's, by all accounts, you could blink and you'll miss it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have Margaret, who's known as Peggy, because it's a number of Margarets, Hodgson, and she has 4 children. That's another Margaret, born in 1964, Janet, born in 1965, John, who was born in 1966, and William, who was born in 1970. Their father was no longer living with them. Now, the father, going back into his history, he was Anthony S. Hodgson, or Denton, or Coward. And we don't really know where the word coward came from, but Denton should have been his real name, I think. He married somebody called Marie Chevalier and registered again in 3 names. And he had 5 children then, and that's Shirley, Anthony, Carol, Christine and Diana. And that was between 1951 and 1958. So he's got 5 children already. Then he meets Peggy and marries her and has a further 4 children. And then he leaves her. And then he goes on to marry Peggy's sister. He's married to Peggy's sister for just 1 year before she dies. And her name is Carol Joyce, and she died a year after. He did go on to marry again, but that's irrelevant for this particular story. The events that happened at Enfield just kind of tally with the time that Carol married the father and the death of Carol as well. And so there seems to have been a great deal of anxiety, and he'd taken this new wife back to the house. And so the kids would have been completely confused by that. It would have been a terribly stressful time. John, the elder son, was very ill and in fact died quite soon after of cancer. And he was judged by a psychiatrist to need a residential home, and was taken away from the home environment and only allowed back on holidays. So that in itself is quite a lot for the mother to deal with, as well as her being a single parent to 4 kids and bringing them up. So it's a very stressful place. They had nothing to prove. They didn't take money for any of the events that went on or for the stories. And they were completely railroaded by the Warrens and by journalists and filmmakers alike. And then we have Gross. Gross goes in from SPR. He'd not been long in the job. He had a son, and he had a daughter who was called Janet, who had died
a year before.
A year before. She was a little bit older than Janet Hodgson, but he had reason to want to believe in the paranormal because of the connection with his daughter. So there we have that. And then we have, who's the other guy, Joe? Talk about him.
Guy Lyon Playfair.
Yeah, and where did he come from?
He was a member of the SPR. He was actually present at a talk that Maurice Gross was giving and realised that he probably needed some help. He was out of his depth and went in to help him with this case. He'd done quite a few poltergeist cases, especially in Brazil. He was quite knowledgeable. And basically those 2 men practically lived at that house for the best part of 14 months. From everything I've read, I totally agree with the stress aspect. Must have been unbelievable stress-wise. Every single person I've heard speak about Peggy Hodgson say what an amazing woman she was, how she coped, how she brought those children up, how spotless her home was. She was an upstanding woman. They were offered another property and she refused. She didn't want to move away from her family or her friends.
Didn't until
because her brother lived, I think, about 6 doors away.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
I can't see any reason. They didn't make anything out of this story at all, money-wise. Nothing.
But mostly it was just stress then.
I think that, I mean, I do believe something was going on there, definitely. But I think the stress was the catalyst for it.
Yeah.
The whole stressful situation of your father leaving,
Marrying your aunt.
your brother's gone off to a special school.
Yeah.
Are you worried that you're going to be the next one carted off to a special school because you're the outgoing kid?
Yeah. The younger brother couldn't speak very well.
No, he had a speech impediment. Both the girls are entering puberty, and we know that that's a trigger for poltergeist activity, hormones and all the rest of it. That little girl must have been so confused. Her dad's gone off with her auntie.
Yeah.
Her dad turns up with her auntie on a Sunday to pay his child maintenance or whatever it is he does.
And the
Her
activity...
mum's really stressed.
The activity kind of begins
Yeah.
as the connection with the aunt and the father begins.
It isn't lost on me that the activity starts in 1977 when the father marries the aunt and pretty much comes to an end in 1978 when the aunt dies.
Yeah.
That seems too coincidental to not be a contributory aspect.
Yeah, connection, a big connection.
Yeah. And they talk a lot about psychokinesis through here, and that there have been tests done on various people that are more susceptible to that, and the energy is something that can be created. But the enormity of the energy is far beyond what I think has been examined, and I'm not sure about chairs turning over, sofas turning over,
but there were so many
and things coming through the ceiling. There's a lot there to take on and believe is real, but there is a lot there also that I would want to investigate as a paranormal experience.
Well, there's one thing in there further on where the guy's tapping on the ceiling. You remember that bit?
Yeah.
But he didn't have anybody upstairs to prove anything.
No, that's true.
And that I questioned that straight away. And I'm like, surely you would have somebody upstairs.
Yeah. And then, of course, we've got the man that died there previously.
Yes.
He was friends with the people next door, the Nottinghams. There was a Frederick Nottingham that was probably about the same age as the old man that died. They were friends. So there would be a knowledge of the stories that those would have shared, that the kids would have known, because the kids knew the Nottinghams as well. I feel that the Nottinghams clearly had a close relationship to Mr. Wilkins, the man that died, and his wife. Now his wife died, she moved away and into another area, and she died of throat cancer. Now I'm absolutely assured that she would have visited the Nottinghams at some time, and maybe that woman spoke a little bit differently. So there's that element as well.
So for context of what's being put out at the moment, we need to sort of say for people, if you're not fully aware of the Enfield Poltergeist in general, feel free to do your own research on this. We're doing it as a sort of matter-of-fact type of way, in terms of we're not here to sort of show you a documentary of it or anything else. We're just talking about it in a case file way. So we've seen the evidence of all of it, which all of you lot can do out there.
Yeah.
Feel free to come back to it. If you want to watch any research and then come back to it and then have your own conclusions, that's great. But this is really what we're trying to do. So forgive us if sometimes we're talking a bit of a matter-of-fact way. If you're not aware of the case, do your own research. But to be fair, this is the reason why we're doing this, because it's probably one of the most famous incidents anyway.
Yeah.
But
and people have tried to elaborate on the story.
Yeah.
And they've taken that story and they've made films of it.
Yeah, of course.
And the Warrens went there and wanted to make a big deal of it and offered money and wanted to be centre of attention for that.
So Ed and Lorraine Warren as well, I've done a video on the channel about them. I did it as a matter of fact type of video because there's a lot of controversy, especially around Ed as well, who we won't go into that, but there's a lot of, unfortunate. Yep. But the point is that they were fundamentally money making people themselves, in my opinion. Yeah. And obviously they latched onto this. Again, there's so many interesting factors that sort of go into this. We're talking about a poltergeist experience as well, and this is like probably one of the extreme ends of that. I find it so fascinating.
Well, we also looked at what a poltergeist actually is.
Yeah.
And what we've discovered, I think, is that a poltergeist isn't about the presence in the house. It's actually connected to a person.
Yep.
And that there wouldn't always be all the three elements of levitation and sound, the voice. It would just be a nuisance moving stuff. That's all it would be.
I think most films that you see or document or things that you see on YouTube, whatever, they miss out the beginning part of that story and launch straight into the voice. And there was a lot of small, insignificant little things that happened. That when you put them all together, start off small and it. What's the word I want? builds up,
Snowball.
builds up,
Crescendo.
builds up.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're not disputing the fact that things happened in that house, and we're not disregarding anybody's experience. What we're trying to do is understand it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is what we're
Couldn't agree
trying
more.
to do.
I think you need to compartmentalise it. It's quite complicated.
Yes.
So I think you need to start with what actually happened in comparison to what was reported to have happened. And then why did it happen? Was it through energy that was channeling through mainly Janet? Or was it Janet whose energy was disrupted because of her emotions? Personally, I realised the research has said that poltergeists are manifested from the individual. I still believe actually the individual is channeling a bad one, a spirit that's wrong and causing trouble.
Yeah,
And
they become attached.
They become attached. They're taking advantage of the weakened state.
Yes.
Typically, it seems to have been
Anxious.
teenage girls because of their hormonal changes. They're very vulnerable to this sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's my personal view. And I think, going back to the first bit of it, as the reporting became more frequent and broadcast to the mainstream media and so on, I think, I'm not going to say manufactured, that's probably unfair, but the experiences were exaggerated.
And it's building on the energy again, isn't it?
And it's building
that energy. The more people that are involved,
Yeah.
the more
Adding their own energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can't see how a child on a sofa that then moves across the room for 8 feet, how can that not be front page news of every channel? Even back in the 70s where we had social media, that's 10 o'clock news on the BBC, right? If it were actually true. Because it's such
But it's how it's reported as well.
Yeah.
But it's really restricted to sort of page 5 on a local press, isn't it? Or one of the daily papers.
It was on
it was BBC News.
Yeah. It was reported that she'd levitated.
Reported, not filmed.
Well, it was photographed, but the photo. I think the photography was taken elsewhere on a clicker.
Yeah. So that was. So for people, if you're not aware, it's probably the most iconic images of that, where Janet looks to. Well, the report is that it's meant to be levitating. However, 2 key factors of that: nobody except Janet and her sister were in that room at the time, so they're the only 2 people who would have witnessed it. They heard that there was rumblings, and then obviously a guy
Morris
started the clicker,
Yeah.
which was to take the photos. So nobody else was in that room except for the two girls.
Of accountability and the actual validity of the photograph, this is exactly the same time period as the guy Bigfoot in the jungle, Loch Ness monster with the compass in the water,
The Exorcist.
The Exorcist.
Absolutely.
It's not beyond reason to think that photograph might have been.
But if you take your focus off of Janet in that photograph and look at her sister in the bed and the expression on her face, I believe that's genuine reaction.
To something.
To something,
Yeah.
to something that was going on in that room.
Yeah, and they could well have been frightened of something, and elaborating that in their mind, because kids do that kind of thing.
Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see levitation. That's
Yeah,
why I
me
do this
too.
stuff. I want to see it. But,
Yeah.
How many hundreds and hundreds of hours have we spent with nothing
Yes,
compared to
and
all
that's
of
exactly
this going
what.
on?
That's exactly what's
Yeah.
not reported.
Yeah.
All that's reported are those things that did happen.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of small things happened before the voice, and then the voice was like, it's come along at the end of it because we've run out of special things
like
to talk about.
14 or 13 months of small things building up. Right at the end was the voice, and yet that seems to be the one thing that most filmmakers
will
focus on.
Yeah, because that's their job, Joe.
Yeah.
It's just to
Yeah, exactly.
make it bigger than what it
Yes.
actually
Yeah,
is, and that's what they do.
But this
It's-
is dreadful for this family.
Yes.
of course, it's
It's a
dreadful.
dreadful
I mean, anything
thing for
like
them
that.
to go through.
Yeah.
And even now, I would say, you know, poor sods, really.
Yeah.
You know, it's an awful thing.
But
And-
back in the day, I mean, more so than nowadays, perhaps, but in terms of journalism, they wouldn't have given a toss about the
No.
family. They're there for the story.
That's right, yeah.
So it was.
And there was lots of journalists that just ploughed in
Yeah.
and took over. And it was then that the
And,
mother was
yeah.
pulling her hair out saying, you just got to get out.
Yeah, no, they was doing it for their own narrative.
I think-
It wasn't about the actual problem
I
going
think
on.
one night, 12 different people turned up. 12.
I mean, that's
all
added
in
to
one
it,
go.
added to it.
That woman must have been so.
Well,
distressed.
any normal person would be, wouldn't you?
But, I
That's
mean,
your
you
home.
know, it's your home. You're supposed to be comfortable in your home. If you've got strangers in and out all the time, you're not going to feel comfortable in your own home,
But
are you?
if you've got Playford and you've got Gross that are trying to prove something, were they just continuing the story until they got something that they wanted?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I've read Guy Playfair's book cover to cover several times. Found different things that I've missed each time I've reread it.
Yeah.
And when you put it together and you look at other poltergeist cases, again, it
It's a
follows
common-
a pattern.
Yeah, there's a pattern.
How would those children know about that? Because there wasn't any computer, there wasn't any internet, there was nothing like
Yeah.
that. How would they have known about the sequence of events in a poltergeist case?
Yeah.
I believe something
happened
there.
Yeah.
Something was going on. I don't doubt they did
Play around.
play around a little bit because they're kids. It's what kids do.
What happens when you get people come in and they want to investigate, and they're the newspaper people?
Yeah.
A child will play on that because
Yeah.
it's an adventure. It's a bit of excitement.
Yeah. Let's wind them
in
up.
an otherwise very miserable household.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it
so
was.
I'm looking at all the aspects all
Yes.
the time,
Yeah.
and that one came to me because I thought that is a high possibility. But like the voice one, and I said to you before,
Yeah.
you put your hand over your mouth and make any noise you like.
Yeah.
So that's questionable, yeah.
Ooh.
And then you had the police lady when she showed up,
Yes. Yeah.
and the lights were out,
Yeah.
and she still
doesn't
swore
mention
that
that.
a chair moved.
4 feet.
Yeah, 4 feet.
I think she does mention that.
She does mention it,
because
yeah.
in the interviews that I've read, she has said that the lights were out, but there was enough light from the lamppost outside
Yeah, that's right.
coming into the room
That
for
was
you
in her
to
report.
clearly see. But again, filmmakers have left that bit out. They've just left in the part that where she says, "Oh yes, I saw
Yeah.
a marble and I saw a chair." And
Yeah, but what
they've
sells,
missed out
Joe?
that first. This is what I'm saying. Nobody's given the true happenings.
No, they
and
use that family
stories.
to make
Yes.
money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and not
that's what
just
the whole
money.
thing's about.
Not just money, John. It's their whole life this must have affected.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
They probably
without
still
a
does.
doubt.
This must
Yeah,
have followed,
without
and
a
here we
doubt.
are. I mean, we're talking about
Yes.
it, and it's like 50 years
Yeah, but we're
later.
talking logically, Joe.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no money in it.
No,
for any of
no,
us,
no.
you know.
I see what you mean. But
And what
I-
we're trying to do is get in depth
Yeah.
and find out, you know, how the family was affected as
Yeah,
well as what actually
absolutely.
went on.
Yeah, my I've spoken about this to Sophie, probably chewed her ear off about it, because actually the one person, Sophie's behind the camera, just to let everybody know, but she's also very invested in this case, and we've actually talked about it on numerous occasions. But the one thing that I find the biggest issue I have with all of it is that fundamentally you had to actually be there.
And feel it.
Because I think this is the biggest problem that I have with this case on any level of it all, is that, and I find it the most fascinating part is, my God, if I was there,
You would know.
you
one way
would
or the
know
other.
straight away whether it would be wrong or right, or you'd have. And I think the problem that I have with it is that every single person that went in there had already a different mindset, maybe apart from the policeman, but a classic case in point is actually the lollipop lady who saw Janet apparently fly.
Yeah.
Well, she knew that there was something going on already there.
Yeah.
Not saying she felt like that, and obviously she saw it through curtains as well. Again, not denying what she saw, But again, if you look at that example, she already knew that she had a preconceived idea of feeling or noticing what she'd seen. There was a pillow or something on the top of the roof. But the point is that it's so interesting to me because I would have loved to have been there just to see it. Because obviously it's 1970, so different mindset, different attitude. But now in our modern day, to go in there now and see it, if that had happened today, wow, I wonder what people's opinions would have been now. Because with the view of hindsight that we look back on this case now, is that I wonder, sitting in that room and seeing a Lego brick fly across. Yeah. Okay, is there anybody there? Have we seen that? Have we genuinely? Is somebody not hiding behind that? Yeah. The chair, for example. With all those types of instances, I mean, again, for example, where Janet's lying on top of the piano, and they happen to walk in and there she is lying on it. I'm sure in her mind that was real to her. But you could have easily replicated that so easily because no one was there. Same thing with the levitation. Yeah. Unless you're actually in there to see it, which this is the other thing we need to clarify on this case study. A lot of this evidence was only between a small circle of people that saw it within reason.
Well, up until the press going in there, there were 15 witnesses.
But that was not altogether. That was literally
going back to the levitation and the lollipop lady, there were actually 2 independent witnesses to that. One was a friend of the lollipop lady who was with her at the time, didn't want to be interviewed about it, and the other was a baker that was delivering to a neighbour.
That's right, yeah.
So that's 3 people saw that.
But you see what I mean by it?
Yeah,
it's just so interesting because it's what did they see? Because I'm not denying that we've spoken on camera, and obviously again me and Sophie as well talking about it. We feel that there was something definitely happened there. And if you look at, again, and obviously from my personal experience, I always look at the law of what a poltergeist is, and we know that the origins from memory, forgive me everybody, is always denominated from African tribes and possession of when the female goes into puberty, let's just sort of say, and they always feel that there's some sort of possession and there's like a ritual. And please forgive me on this because my brain sometimes gets the better of me on it, but when you look at these certain cases, the hysterical nature and the belief that gets put onto them,
and the energy,
because sometimes in Janet's case, let's just take for example, if she wasn't surrounded by the people who were going in there with a certain mindset of like, well, no, this is definitely what you've seen, this is definitely what you've experienced. What if there was numerous skeptical people who'd actually gone in there, and then this is what we're going to hint at. Maybe talking about trauma and mental health, again, which wasn't discussed really. What if somebody else had gone in there in that respect and sort of done that? Because it's interesting, the people who had gone in there who felt there was nothing to believe were actually the people who were looking at it from a different level. Yeah. They were looking at it from a psychological level. Yeah. Actually, we're more worried about the kids.
Yes.
Forget the paranormal aspect for a second, because there's no denying that certain aspects of that, even I'm like, actually, this is what fascinates me. If I was there and I'd seen a marble fly across the room and I genuinely didn't feel that there was any logic behind it, I'd be like, hang on a minute, well, something's definitely going on here. But whatever's taken place on top of that is the thing that concerned me the more, the more psychological aspect of it. And again, we have to tread carefully because we are aware that obviously there are people still alive in this case, and we're not labelling and we're not sort of diagnosing at all. But again, you put all those like jigsaw pieces and elements into place, it does make for a slightly different picture.
But also, I think you've got to bear in mind that, as a child of the 70s, mental health wasn't talked about.
Absolutely,
No. Nobody knew anything about autism, ADHD. Nothing like that. We never heard those words, did we? No. Things like that just weren't spoken about.
And the father at school was documented as being incapacitated,
yes,
whatever that meant.
Yeah. Another interesting thing to put on top of that point was isn't it interesting, quote unquote, how the moment the family go on holiday or the moment Janet gets psychoanalyzed, they find nothing wrong with her. So in other words, when she's
And it all
taken out
calms
into a
down.
different environment and she's happy,
Yeah.
take away the poltergeist element of it. Because actually, if you look at a poltergeist, it doesn't matter where they are, that's going to be an attachment.
Yeah.
And that's going to take them with it. So actually, if they were on holiday, they should still experience
They
in
did.
paranormal law, but not in a way that's. Do you know what I'm trying to see by that?
According to Playfair's book, small instances happened when they were on holiday. Nothing like what happened at the house. But coming back from holiday, the mum, Peggy, she was crying on the train, knowing she was going back
Yeah.
to that.
So that,
Yeah. So
Mm.
again, you've got that build up.
Because I wonder again, like if I put a skeptical hat on for a second, those incidents that they talked about on holiday, would they be incidents that for us people who are interested in the paranormal might just batter an eye at because it's not enough for us, if that makes sense? Or was it that strong? Because if it was that strong, it would be well documented. We'd be
Yes.
saying, well, actually, when Janet gets moved out of the environment, she'd be literally being possessed. She'll be still going about this.
Yeah.
That's what interests me. The moment she gets taken out of that environment, if the elements of what we know, like I said, it develops into voices, so we know that energy, let's just sort of say, is that strong, then shouldn't it be going away? We know that you get attachments, we know we get these types of things. It shouldn't be down to the location if that energy is that strong.
But equally, if she's away from the place that's causing her the anguish
Yeah,
and the anxiety, she's then naturally a bit stronger,
yeah.
so would perhaps resist.
No, you're absolutely right on that. No, I can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right on that. I think that's a really interesting point to make. But my argument to that was almost because of how strong it is. I would expect to see something more. Because I totally agree with what you said, and this is why I sort of go for it. Because it is one of the most documented poltergeist cases ever, I would still be, in a modern context, expecting them to witness stronger, or if not, same sort of thing. But because it's only minor stuff, it just makes me wonder. And like I said, on an energy level, you're absolutely right. On an energy level, yes, it's interesting. But the moment it all goes back, and then all of a sudden, everybody else comes back into that environment as well. So
Yeah,
it's
what's
sort of
interesting-
it's a group.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But what's interesting as well is that when Janet goes to stay at her uncle's, things happen in his house, and things happen next door in the Nottingham's house.
Right, yeah.
So where does that energy stop?
Or where does the proof stop?
Where does the proof stop?
On the other end
How-
of it,
yeah.
is she trying to prove
How
something?
do you explain the curtain wrapping itself around her neck, which was witnessed?
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
No, I can't.
You can't explain that.
But this is
So-
what makes this fascinating, isn't
Yeah.
it?
The whole thing is really, really, and I think it was probably the first time that a true paranormal story was documented in the papers.
If it is an entity that's using Janet as a conduit because of her adolescence or lack of strength, could it be that entity is associated to the house the block of houses, so next door
it's a
and
terrace.
the
Yeah.
uncle's a few doors down? So that would then explain when she does leave the area, it doesn't go with her because it actually is not interested in Janet, it's interested
Just
in
in
the
the-
property.
Yeah, very
property.
good point.
So
Yeah,
it
I
would
like
be
that.
interesting
Yeah, it's
to know
interesting.
what was on the land
Yeah.
prior to those houses
Yeah.
being there, wouldn't it?
And indeed, has anything happened since the family departed the property in the last nearly 50 years, or 45 years?
Yeah.
Has any other children lived there? Has anything recurred? I don't know, just start putting the question out.
This is a fairly recent photograph, and whoever lives there now has put "Jesus lives here" in the window.
Oh.
I would say that's because people are still
Yeah,
pressurising.
of course.
Yeah.
They're still pressurising to try and get something out of that.
Yeah.
And if there was an energy in it, that would be encouraged by the people knocking on the door.
Yeah.
I just think it's really interesting that there are two things: that Janet is living in the area that she went on holiday,
Yeah.
and that
The father died in the same place.
the father died in the same place, and that this stopped when the aunt died.
Yes.
There is something about the timeline there that, for me, is a catalyst for the energy that was developed.
Another interesting thing is with the whole thing with the voice. Everybody concentrates on Bill Wilkins.
Yeah, because obviously it's...
But there was others.
There were others.
Yeah.
There were others. It wasn't just Bill. There was a Ted. There was a, I don't know.
Yeah. And they said that. They said there's 3 others when they were sitting on the chair. How many are here now? Or there's at least 3.
Yeah, because there's actually some famous footage of actually there's a news interview, isn't there? And Janet's actually, you can hear her voice and you can actually see that her lips aren't moving.
Yeah.
And actually, at first, if you're not, I find it really interesting, that clip, because basically, for people out of context, there's a BBC or some news reports actually going. There's actually footage of, obviously there's lots of tapes. Morris obviously did lots of daily diaries and stuff like this, and vlogging or whatever modern context of saying it. But there's a really interesting bit, and that's probably one of the things that really makes me completely blow everything out of the water. Every time I want to be sceptical about it, it's just like, that's interesting. Because what I want everybody to do out there for a second is, if you find the footage, if we find the link, actually, Sophie can remind me when we're recording this, we'll try and find a link and we'll put it down below. If you have a look at that footage, all I want you guys to do out there for me is, don't know in that footage who Janet is. Purposely don't know, like, you know what I mean by that. So, because they're all there. And then figure out who's actually, if somebody's going to do the voice. Do you know what I mean? Are we all okay with me saying that? Because I'm really curious.
Yeah.
Because I look at that footage and I'm like, if I just closed my eyes or just didn't block out the idea of that voice does sound quite interesting as to who you would nail that onto out of the people that were there. I think actually the footage is of Janet, her sister, and of the mum, and I think there's just 3 of them from memory, and all sitting on the sofa.
Yeah.
And then you can see, but then the camera does focus onto Janet, and you can sort of like hear it. But I find that if you just take away that for a second and just go, I wonder if you could sort of like nail on that voice of, like, you know what I mean?
They did have a linguist, was it a linguist?
Well, no, ventriloquist there, the famous ventriloquist
that
come
was
over
Ray
as well.
Allen.
Yeah,
He wasn't qualified in any means.
But this is the lunacy of the thing that they even got a famous ventriloquist to go in there to see if Janet was actually, and he just for clarity, he actually came away and thought that she was 100% doing it. From
he's got a job to keep.
that's exactly it. Yeah.
Maybe felt threatened.
So and again of the time, but we just need to put that out there that's another. But it just highlights the lunacy of what this was. They were getting a famous ventriloquist to go in because they were so
off the TV.
Off the TV, because they were so like, well, we need to sort of figure
before
this
they
out.
got a proper scientist.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that they've picked on the Bill Wilkins voice is the whole thing about the sun coming forward.
Yeah, that's right.
I recognise the voice and I recognise so the others are less interesting. But again, if you study the Battersea Poltergeist, it's a similar story.
Yes.
It's a similar in the build up of activity. Yeah, it's something tiny, started with a key on a bed and it gradually works. And that case went on for 12 years. You know?
But they do say that most poltergeists only last for a short period of time.
Yeah, but I did a little study on poltergeists in general, and I think I picked out about 15 cases. Most of those cases, all bar one, all involved children in the house. There was only one case that I found that was in a mower factory or some mower repair shop that was just adults.
Oh, Peter Poltergeist.
Peter Poltergeist.
From, the lawnmowers.
Everyone else.
Yeah. And there was a child, and the irony of that was actually, it was the complete reverse. Because actually the poltergeist was said to be a tiny little boy who was messing about.
Yeah.
Playful, actually. That's an interesting case today, actually. I like that,
But that was the only one I found that didn't have any children or adolescents involved somewhere on the property.
I want to throw this out there because we could talk about this for ages and ages and ages. I mean, there's so much into it, and I'm sure people in the comments have their own conclusions and stuff. I'm gonna get everybody to nail their colours to the mast though. Now, I don't think I can at the moment, so I'm going to hear everybody else's before I do it for me, because I'm still a little bit on the fence. So the question to every single one of you is, do you believe there was a genuine poltergeist case here? Yes or no? And you can give some reasons as well if you feel like it, but whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first. I absolutely do believe. And the reason I believe that is because I've read so much and I've heard interviews from the horse's mouth of people who were there. So, yes, I believe something.
Okay.
I believe they believe something happened.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to document that.
Yeah.
And for some of the documentation, I think that I would prefer to get my own.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that some of theirs could have been biased.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence with it. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I need a hell of a lot more proof before I would say yes. So I'm on the fence.
I believe something happened, but to a lesser extent than was reported.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will probably sentiment that as well. Also, behind the camera, I've got to agree to. That was interesting. Sophie, who's behind the camera, if you can hear her, but what's your?
I do believe something happened, but I think it was so heightened and exaggerated in some instances.
Yeah.
And as you say, they were impressionable. Absolutely. So I don't deny something happened, or they felt something was happening, but I think it was played into an awful lot.
Yeah.
Do you think that you've changed an opinion since we've had this conversation?
No, I do think they've always thought something's happened, but there's so many questionable aspects, people's own objectives in the case and being brought in to study the case. They had their own objectives, they had their own motives. Yeah. But the girls, and as I say, they didn't take money from it.
No, they
never have.
No, they didn't want anything from it.
So that's a real big question. Yeah. And they were offered to move house. They didn't want to move house.
And the mum stayed there until she died in it was 2002.
Because there was no profit or reward for them.
And was there for anybody else? Because I wondered about the brother.
Yeah. I wanted to say about this because I want to again really tread carefully because again I know there's people out there. But Maurice Grosse, we won't go into this because we could carry on talking about this. But it's fascinating how out of every single person in this, I'm not saying he came out the best, but he definitely elevated his career through this afterwards. And you do see him in interviews on other cases, not the Enfield Poltergeist. And I know that the society sort of shunned him to a degree as well. But actually, out of every single person, not that he had anything to gain, because I don't think he actually did, but he definitely came out becoming an expert all of a sudden when we've got to remind ourselves this was his first actual genuine case.
But towards the end of the Enfield case, he was actually working on another poltergeist case alongside it. And I think it kind of became his speciality.
Yeah.
But his story alone, with his daughter and her death, if you can find the interview with his son, I believe he's called Richard, that tells the story of the death of his sister. That had some strange
It did have
occurrences.
strange occurrences.
But Dan, you raised a point earlier, which I thought was a really valid point, where you don't know unless you're in the situation, in the room, the feeling, and we know from experience, don't we?
Well,
we all know from experience that being somewhere and experiencing something is different to reading about it, watching a film.
100%. Because this is our opinion, and we're not here to hurt anybody's feelings or anything else on this. This is just our own opinion. It's a case study. We have to keep reminding everybody out there, if the title is, we're here to got this case, we're studying it for ourselves, and we're having our own opinion on it. The other thing I wanted to just bring up, as we can sort of politely bring this to a close, because there's so much out there for everybody to do on this one. It's really... the other thing I wanted to sort of ask everybody, this is a final question to everybody, single one of us all here, and obviously your expertise are really key on this. If this happened today and you went in, what do you think would your view do you think your view would change on the opinion of this case? Do you know what I mean by that, don't you? If this case happened today and you got invited into this house and you saw all the evidence and all the equipment you've got now and all the expertise that you've all got, do you feel there might be a change of opinion on what you might have experienced?
I believe there would be, because everything's so advanced now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can have cameras in every room.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have microphones in every room.
Yeah.
And whatever you like. Your senses, anything like that. And if anything happens, it will be picked up one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because you've got to remember, in the 70s, it was all antiquated.
I mean, would it be more conclusive is probably what I'm trying to
Yes,
say.
yes,
I'll go with that.
Universal,
But
yes.
for me, it would be, let's find out how these children are before we even look at investigating.
And actually, let's look at this from a negative angle as well. I truly believe actually that on a negative spectrum, if the kids if this case was tomorrow, those kids' exposure would be even worse.
Could you imagine it?
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah? Absolutely. Can you imagine?
You'd be out there on
100%
on the web. It'd be absolutely everywhere.
But I really admire those women, Margaret and Janet, for how they have conducted themselves.
100%. No, I agree.
And
I do agree.
stood by their belief.
Convictions.
And we've actually seen Janet get quite angry.
Yes.
And I find when she's been challenged on it.
I find it quite sad for her. Don't mean to interrupt, but every time you see an interview of her, she's clearly affected by it.
Yeah.
And this is what goes back to these experiences. And we always address this out there for everybody. Whether you believe in it or not, if you have seen something, it will affect you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And whatever level that is. In fact, actually, I actually opened up to the team for actually just sort of mentioning this thing that I've never even spoke about on camera or anything else, about a little incident that I had. But the point is that we can still talk about this, and it affects us in different ways, whether you're sceptical or not. And I think this is the biggest overriding arc about it, is that whatever your belief, it's personal to you, and they can't take that away from you. And obviously, in Janet's case, you see them interviews, and my heart goes out to her, because she's the greatest actor who's managed to act this out for how many of years now, and managed to keep the same poker face, let's politely say. But I don't think she. I think it's really she is scarred by that in whatever way.
Those children, whichever way, whether it's the paranormal, whether it's their father conducting themselves, whether it was illness, whatever. Those children were faced with things that children
100%.
of that age should not have to
There's a
deal
lot
with.
going on.
Absolutely.
And the way they have conducted their lives, and I just really admire them.
To answer your question, from my point of view, if this team, because we all trust each other, and that includes our colleague who's on holiday and not here today, who is more of a skeptic, I think we would probably all reach the same conclusion, including him. I think we'd all broadly be in agreement with whatever results we got from an investigation. But if this was reported fresh in today's world, with all the stuff and all the garbage that we have out there, I would be far less inclined to even read it, frankly.
Because I was going to... Actually, you raised a really good point, because I was actually going to mention that. In a sad way, it's sad now that a lot of these types of incidents happen more commonly now, but are... And I'm going to say, this is on me, by the way, not on anybody else, I'm speaking for me, are fake. And they're for clicks, and they're for clickbait, and they're for people to get views, and obviously...
And that's what they were suffering.
And actually, in this case, you could argue, like we've all agreed, there are certain things in this case that are undeniably unexplained. They're not paranormal, I wouldn't use that, but unexplained. You cannot explain it. It might not be paranormal, it's nature, because we know that there's a lot of factors in that, but definitely unexplained. And I think absolutely rightly what you said, in a modern context, actually, I think it would get a lot of exposure, but it'd almost bleed into every other clickbaity title that you get. Exactly,
That'd be even worse than it was in them days, you know?
But on an investigative level, I think actually what you've rightly said, because you're the experts on that, I mean, you know, it's interesting to hear you talk about that. So I think that, you know, but rightly said, in a modern context, all you have to do is type in poltergeisting on YouTube, and there's like a billion things,
Yeah.
and you watch some of them, and you're like, oh my god, really?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're like,
Well, you know the ones that are really set up. You know it straight away.
I think that's a great way to conclude, everybody. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
All I want to say is, for the viewers, right,
yes,
poltergeist is a German word, and it means pounding spirit, right? And what that pounding spirit means is what it is when they cause mayhem, move objects, and that kind of thing. And that's just for your viewers, so they can look it up. That's out there.
I think also, if there's any cases that you feel we want to investigate, put them in the comments, actually.
Yes, please.
Yeah, if there's anything, and again, links below for the Paranormal Inspectors. If there's any places you feel they want to investigate outside of obviously the Phoenix History banner, go for it. Let us know in the comments, or just get in contact with them in the links below. They will be quite happy to oblige. But if there's any case files you feel that we've not covered or anything, put them down in the comments. I'm sure they'll take it up and we can discuss them ourselves. And I'm quite grateful that I'm always really interested in this sort of subject, as most of you already know. So it's quite good if there are some interesting cases that we've not taken on board. But
Can I add
go
something?
for it, yes.
And for anybody that's out there is somebody living in this property.
Yeah.
And they are to be respected.
Rightly said.
Yes.
Rightly said. So, thank you so much, everybody. Hopefully you really enjoyed this interesting case study. Like I said, no harm done. We obviously have respect, it's our own opinions. Much love to all of you out there. Thank you so much to everybody involved, and we will, of course, see you on another case study very soon. Take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.